What's up, beautiful people? Welcome to my channel. This is your girl, Mommy So True. I am so delighted to have this day with you guys today. Thank you for being here. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am so glad you're here. I just dropped a video yesterday talking about, being a scapegoat in tears, just going through the emotions of not having my dad growing up, being this adult, going through narcissistic, toxic relationships, recovering from narcissistic abuse. Welcome to my channel, you guys. I talk about it all, whether it's school related, whether it's a sibling, whether it's a boss. Narcissism is narcissism. It's the world we live in. So welcome to this community. We are all here together with similar stories, similar situations, and most importantly, similar pain. We're all here going through the same type of pain from this ridiculous abuse, but thank God we know about it. You guys, it is so ironic that I was in my feelings yesterday about my dad and having my own daddy issues and, surviving narcissism as a scapegoat in my own family, only to come across a video that we need to talk about. You guys, I love reacting to videos that are related to narcissism, videos that, show us so much more in depth this abuse, how it happens, taking a closer look and a deep dive into the homes of people who are living with narcissistic parents, the homes of people who are dealing with narcissistic children. This video in particular, you guys, I'm blown, but I have to introduce it to my community. I have to show you guys this story because there's so many layers involved in this story, and I'm gonna let us watch as much as I'm gonna let you guys watch this with me as much as I can without stopping it and going in with my reaction. I'm gonna try to wait till the end to let y'all know my thoughts and my perspectives about this story. But this is the story of a 12 and a 13-year-old girl, a brother and a sister, siblings, who grew up in a toxic, narcissistic family home that led them to killing their stepmother. And the story is so deep, it's so interesting. Like I said, there's so many different layers. So let's get right into it, y'all. Before I get in, don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe on today's video. But we are gonna dive right on in and talk about narcissism, narcissistic abuse involving children. You guys, when it comes to children, the empath in me is all the way flared up. Children are the future. And this video explains children being the future. Let me stop talking and let me start showing. All right, y'all, let's get right into it.
I actually took the fingerprints off the gun and wiped it down. And I told my brother that he got hysterical. He had an emotional breakdown because, once again, this is reality now. This isn't some idea that's in our head anymore. This is reality.
These are Catherine and Curtis Jones. When Catherine was 13 and Curtis was only 12, they became the youngest people to ever be tried and sentenced as adults. In the eyes of the law, they had committed first-degree murder, but no one seemed to look at the absolute horror show their childhood was.
At one point, I was just so happy to be away. And I know that sounds really, really messed up, but there was just some point where I was just away from all that, and I was by myself, and I was safe.
While inside dealing with the pain of the sexual abuse that I was experiencing from the age 5 to the date of my incarceration.
When they couldn't take it anymore, the Jones siblings took out all of their rage and frustration on their father's girlfriend. And it would take a long time until people would stop seeing them as the psychopathic predators. This is the full story of Catherine and Curtis Jones, how they became juvenile murderers, and how they escaped a world of pain. In 1985 in Florida, Curtis Jones and Stacy Parks had their first baby, Catherine. In May of the following year, Curtis Jr. came along. From the outside, they looked like a young, happy family of 4, but Stacy wasn't happy. Curtis was a vicious physical abuser, and the abuse had started as soon as the pair began dating. When Stacy was pregnant with Catherine, Curtis beat her so badly her uterus broke, and Catherine had to be born early. Imagine living in a house like that. And you know how abuse usually only gets worse if it's not addressed? Well, it did. And by 1989, Stacy couldn't take it anymore. She left her family and fled to her parents in Kansas. Her 2 kids were just toddlers at that time, but she couldn't take them with her. It broke her heart, but she left, hoping to reunite with them one day. Sadly, this day would never come. Catherine and Curtis Jr. stayed with their dad. All was well. The kids loved Curtis Sr. deeply, and judging by the photos, they seemed to have a great time together. But just a couple of years after Stacy left the family home, Curtis Sr. invited a male relative to live with them. Whether it was to help him financially or to have some company, who knows? But this was the beginning of the end for the Jones children's happiness.
I was the ultimate actress, a professional at being a A+ student, social butterfly, perfect kid on the outside, while inside dealing with the pain of the sexual abuse that I was experiencing from the age 5 to the date of my incarceration.
That's right, the male relative would abuse Catherine sexually constantly since she was kindergarten age, and she wasn't alone.
I didn't know that it was both until it did happen. And when I finally did tell my family, I think it was the second or third time I ran away from home and HRS got involved. And when they said that they would take us out of the house, I denied it. I said, no, never mind. I don't want to push through with this, even though, in the report, they said there were indicators of abuse. And my brother told me he believed me. And he said, I know it's true because it's happened to me too.
Catherine and Curtis had always been close to each other. In an unstable family environment, they knew that all they had was each other. But after learning both of them were victims of the same monster, they teamed up like never before. They swore that they would get out of that house together and escape the never-ending horror show. In 1994, 96, and 98, child safety investigators were started for the Jones kids. The first 2 times it was after Curtis complained to his mother about the physical and sexual abuse he was suffering. The 3rd time it was Catherine's account. But none of these times did Curtis Sr. believe his kids. He would defend his relative in front of the child safety officers, and even when they discovered the man's history. The relative had a history of petty crime and pedophilia. Instead, he hadn't moved in with Curtis Sr. due to financial stress. He'd run away from home after violating his girlfriend's 14-year-old daughter. Yeesh. But even with this information, the investigations were dropped every single time.
Took us out of the house, I denied it. I said, no, never mind. I don't want to push through with this, even though, in the report, they said there were indicators of abuse. And my brother told me he believed me. And he said, I know it's true because it's happened to me too.
Catherine and Curtis had always been close to each other. In an unstable family environment, they knew that all they had was each other. But after learning both of them were victims of the same monster, they teamed up like never before. They swore that they would get out of that house together and escape the never-ending horror show. In 1994, 96, and 98, child safety investigators were started for the Jones kids. The first 2 times it was after Curtis complained to his mother about the physical and sexual abuse he was suffering. The 3rd time it was Catherine's account. But none of these times did Curtis Sr. believe his kids. He would defend his relative in front of the child safety officers, and even when they discovered the man's history. The relative had a history of petty crime and pedophilia. Instead, he hadn't moved in with Curtis Sr. due to financial stress. He'd run away from home after violating his girlfriend's 14-year-old daughter. Yeesh. But even with this information, the investigations were dropped every single time. Curtis Sr. would defend his relative, the kids would change their stories, and evidence was always lacking. Why would the children change their stories if the situation was so bad? You see, each case was related to just one of the 2 kids. So if the case was to be finalized, it meant the siblings would be separated. None of them wanted that. Catherine would even refuse her freedom in order to be in prison with her brother. By 1999, there were 3 adults living in the Jones household: Curtis Sr., his monstrous relative, and Curtis Sr.'s girlfriend, 29-year-old Sonia Nicole Spites. She was a teaching assistant with a bright smile, but as far as the kids were concerned, she was a monster too. She saw what was going on in their house, and she didn't lift a finger to stop it. Neither did their father, and this infuriated Catherine and Curtis. Just a few days after the 1998 investigation was closed, Catherine went to the bathroom to take a shower. The relative followed. He pulled the shower curtain and began masturbating. All Catherine could do was crouch down in the corner of the bathroom and cry until he was done. Before he left, he put 50 cents on the toilet seat for Catherine, just when you thought it couldn't get more humiliating for poor Catherine. She wrote in her diary, "I'm going to kill everyone." So Catherine told her little brother about her plan. They should kill every adult in that house, from the monster who had been terrorizing them for years to the 2 adults who turned a blind eye to it every single day.
I was like a dormant volcano, one that erupted at age 13, resulting in me taking the life of an innocent woman.
Curtis Jr. was happy to go along with the plan. He had enough too. On January 6th, 1999, their attack began.
He was in the kitchen and I was sitting at the table. I already knew it was fixing to happen. We had already talked about it, and she was sitting at the other dining room table. And he shot her in the chest. And she tried to grab the phone and I went and took the phone.
Curtis fired the gun several times at Nicole until she wasn't moving anymore. But his sister could see him trembling with fear and shock, so she took the gun and fired the last 2 bullets at the patio. Then she cleaned the gun.
I actually took the fingerprints off the gun and wiped it down. And I told my brother that he got hysterical. He had an emotional breakdown because, once again, this is reality now. This isn't some idea that's in our head anymore. This is reality.
When Curtis was having a full-blown emotional breakdown, the 2 kids called 911 and reported the murder as an accident. Then they fled the house.
I was trying to calm him down, and we ended up leaving the house because of all the blood and stuff that was everywhere. And I called my best friend, and she came and we went to her house, and then we went to another friend's house. And I had told my brother, if anything happens, I did it. You didn't have anything to do with it.
The brotherly love and support here was incredible. Catherine was ready to take the blame for Curtis and go to prison on her own. But when the police caught the kids at 7 a.m. the next morning, Curtis took full responsibility for them.
I can't let it play throughout without just saying what is rushing through my mind. First of all, this is the problem. Too many people stay in abusive relationships. This story started out by saying that the mother was in an abusive relationship from the time she was dating the father. She didn't leave. She never left. Whatever the reason was, I'm pretty sure it's psychological. She's probably someone who has her own trauma, someone who doesn't know how to say no. She's probably a people-pleasing empath. Who knows? But she did not leave the relationship. On top of that, she left them with their dad, who abused her physically. I have a big problem with that. I have a big problem with that because why are we so selfish? I get it. He was beating you up. I get it. He was abusing you. I get it. But you laid down and had 2 kids with him. 2 kids that are now your responsibility as well. And trust me, I get it, because it sounds like this man was a malignant narcissist. He was a harmful, narcissistic male. He probably did not make it easy for her to leave with or without her kids. But she left. She was able to eventually escape and left the kids with the monster. I'm still stuck on that part, okay? All right, so bam, we got that. Now, still on the mom. Mom leaves. She came back to visit the kids while she left and noticed that they were being abused. Even further, her son reported sexual abuse. She left them there still. At this point, I'm like, damn, why was the mom so weak? I'm sorry. She was being abused, but she was weak. How did you leave your children with this monster? Because if he was beating you, what makes you think he wouldn't beat them? If he treated you like crap, what makes you think he won't treat your kids like crap? I am so sorry, but being a mother is so vital. It's a calling to be a mother. It's a calling to birth children. And if you are going to leave for your sanity and your safety, take your children with you. This same man broke your uterus and brought your first child into the world. For me, that would have been enough ammo for me to get the hell out of that house, take my baby and run for my life. I would have never even laid down to have baby number 2 with you. Yeah, it might be easier said than done, but fuck that. We need to be stronger, man. We need to stop being so comfortable and desensitized to abuse. We need to stop letting these narcissistic men beat us and then tell us they love us, and then we believe the I love you part and stay. Another point that I want to make in this video is I love the sibling dynamic. I love the sibling connection. But I also see that one of the siblings had serious narcissistic traits, and it was the girl. The one who came into this world through a broken uterus. She came into the world painfully. Her mother was getting her butt kicked while she was pregnant in the womb. This little girl has been experiencing violence and hell and drama since she was an embryo, since she was still a cell. Okay, so the demons of her father chased her through that DNA canal. And it's because of her that her brother made the decision that he made to shoot this woman that they killed. I am so hurt at the fact that this girl was under so much abuse. I can't even wrap my mind around the fact that this little girl was in the shower while a grown-ass man masturbated to her in the shower at the age of 12. It just puts me back into my own childhood trauma at the age of 9, 10, when my own uncle came into the room to touch me in the middle of my sleep, messing with my breasts. That was so mentally damaging for me throughout my life. It wasn't until I was about 25 that I was comfortable letting a man touch me in that area. My relationships have suffered because I have been uncomfortable being touched physically because I was always reminded by that touch. So I can only imagine what this little girl's mental was like, experiencing this over and over and over. And then having a parent like her dad telling her, I don't believe you. You making it up. I heard my mother tell me that. And I remember how heartbreaking it was to hear her tell me that she didn't believe that the neighbor tried to rape me. And that alone made me want to get up and go kill somebody. This is why I mentioned in one of my first videos that I had to go to therapy by the time I was 19, 20 years old, because I realized I had some messed up traits, and it was all because I was filled with anger for all the abuse, being touched as a child, being told that I'm lying when I'm trying to get protection from the people who are taking care of me and who are supposed to care for me. I went and told my mom and my stepdad that the neighbor tried to rape me. Next thing I know, the neighbor is their best friend. Next thing I know, they are now the godparents of the neighbor's son. Next thing I know, they going to the neighbor's wedding. So for me, watching that and seeing that, it messed with me mentally. That is part of the major reason why I left my family, got the hell away, moved to a whole nother state, and said, you know what? I'd rather be miserably alone. Because no child especially not a girl, wants to feel invalidated when she's being abused. Her mother abandoned her, left her to deal with it, left her to be a mother to her little brother. And then her father abandoned her and told her, look, you good. Keep pretending to be that perfect little girl that everybody sees you as. Nobody wants to know that you're being hurt. Keep that hush. Hush, little girl. You're making daddy look bad. Daddy can't love you if daddy gotta defend you like that. This girl was programmed on conditional love from her father. But that wasn't enough. Conditional love from daddy did not keep her from killing daddy's little new mistress. And there was already resentment about daddy having another girlfriend because daddy hurt mommy and made mommy leave. You couldn't treat mommy right, but you treating somebody else right? Ain't no damn way. And another point. I'm so sorry, but this stepmother of theirs, and she wasn't a stepmother, she was his girlfriend, so she wasn't even no damn stepmother. She got what she had coming. She got what she had coming. She walked straight into an early death, messing around with somebody she had no business messing around with. Why are you somewhere trying to be a girlfriend to somebody who is not a good person? If this man was treating his wife like that, I know he couldn't have been a good person. I know he definitely was one of those malignant narcissists that came off rough, came off criminal, came off just scary and harmful and violent. And she chose to be in a relationship with him. And then she chose to remain silent, watching his children live in an abusive environment. God does not like ugly, y'all. It breaks my heart. This is the reason why I'm so passionate about mental health and narcissistic abuse, because so many children are unheard, unseen, unprotected, and they're never given a chance to be who they're supposed to be in this life because their life gets shut down early. Before they get into adulthood, their childhood is stripped away from them. Their innocence is taken away from them. Why are children being punished when the adults need to be punished? Why didn't her dad receive any type of punishment for both the abuse he did with the mom and for allowing abuse with his children? And who knows what he did to the kids that they are never going to speak on? Why aren't they mentioning that this predator relative guy went and served time like he should have? Why didn't he get in any type of trouble for all this raping he did to this little girl and her brother? Why is it that we had to label them as monsters when the monsters were the people they were living with, the people that brought them into the world, the people that were responsible for their lives? But they're monsters. Do you guys see how the world is so narcissistic and how it's so easy for a narcissist to get away with the crap that they do when you remain silent, you don't speak up, and you don't fight back? And how much damage gets done when women are putting up with these narcs, keeping their children around them, staying in these homes. Kids are mentally tormented when they are forced to stay in a home full of abuse. These kids are learning unhealthy narcissistic traits that will lead them into reacting negatively. You know that you being an adult dealing with a narcissist, you have fallen into a rage. You wanted to beat them up, kill them, burn their house up, whatever you wanted to do. So just imagine what a child who gets fed up starts thinking. They start thinking like this 12 and this 13-year-old. She wrote in her diary, I am going to kill everybody. She meant that. And watching her in prison after it all happened, you see that she meant it. There was no remorse. Why